society and culture. Free country on the right has been around for thousands of years. Free country on the left has only been around for about 300 years. I have to tell you something. You see, the country on the right, this is a metaphor. It's an image I'm trying to paint here. Country on the right, 30 years ago, their water was poisoned. They drank the water and rendered the men and women sterile. So they have no children under 30. At first they were devastated by it, but they realized in very short order that there were some economic advantages to not having to educate, feed, clothe, house, kids. They have no kids under 30. Which one of the countries has a better future? Help me out. Yeah. Because if you don't have kids, you don't have anything. That's how it works. The rest of the world is losing sight of that fact. Sounds strange? If you had a cattle farm and your foreman came up to you and said, I've got some bad news, boss. The cattle aren't breeding. Would that send you into a tailspin? I hope it would. The rest of the world is losing its desire to breed. Hold that thought. And folks, let me help you out here too. Some of this stuff is not for the faint-hearted. Granted, I'm going to tell you something that's probably going to give you some pause. Stay with me. 2 cows. Again, I'm setting the stage here for an understanding of demography. 2 cows. 2 cows eat X amount of grass, give X amount of milk, and when they're dead, it's X amount of litter. Okay? 12 cows. 12 cows eat X amount of grass, give X amount of milk, and when they're dead, it's X amount of litter. Which one gets born? Yeah, the 12. Why? Because more is more. That's a concept in demography. Hold that thought. This is my most complex slide. 2 similar groups of people. One has 1,000, one has 500. Which group will require the most food? 1,000, obviously. Which group, if we prepare the same amount of food for both groups and the group 500 can't finish or doesn't finish, can we assume that they were not hungry or didn't like the food? No, you can't. Right, it's a smaller group. Be silly, right? Which group is likely to have the most criminals? Group 1,000 or group of 500? Group 1,000, right. Which group is likely to have the most traffic accidents? Which group is likely to have the most people over 90? Incidentally, the whole brand of America thing that we've been hearing from the media over and over and over again, it's a myth. We have fewer elderly people right now. We will have almost no elderly people going forward, and I'll show you why. People in the military, consumers, which group will eat the most apples? A group of 1,000 or a group of 500? 1,000. That's how demography works. Candy apples at the state fair. Incidentally, in Connecticut. Where are my Connecticut people? Where's our state fair? Massachusetts, yeah. It is. Okay, you got candy apples at the state fair. You guys can understand this. You're business people. You got a booth at the state fair. You're selling a few candy apples. You're a little bit nervous. You don't know whether to call your accountant or call an economist for an answer. Obviously, you're not. But things aren't going very well. You got a big inventory. You got a lot of staff. You have to pay for your space. Call your demographer. Your demographer will say, "Can you see the parking lot? The parking lot is filling up with school buses. What does that mean to you selling candy apples? Business is going to get better. The United States parking lot is filling up with school buses, and no one's talking about it. Mom's apple pie. I need a big family. Who grew up in a big family? Grew up in a big family. Amen. Amen. 6 here. I get 6 here, 7 where? 8 here, 9 where? How many? 10 there. We'll stop at 10. Okay, here's a question I have for you. Mom puts that down on the table. The kids all home? Mom puts that down on the table. How long does it last? A nanosecond, right? Yeah, I grew up in a family of 4 boys. My mother put that down on the table. I can show you fork marks in my hand now. But there's a funny thing that happened. Understand that we're discussing the net effects of demography. It's shifting demography. When my older brother, Chuck, moved out, he was a big guy, 6'2", over 200 pounds. When he moved out, my other 2 brothers and I noticed something, and that was the pie did not disappear as fast. So we took our time. You know what my mother said? "You don't like my pies anymore." And when the twins moved out and it was just me, she would cut me a huge piece and I would eat it. And then she'd cut me another one. She'd say, "Just finish this up."
right? And I ended up a little fat kid. That wasn't funny. Folks, my mother did not understand shifting demography, and neither do we. We don't understand that populations, as populations move through a marketplace, they change everything. Where do we get our information? Well, most of our information, unfortunately, we get from Hollywood, or we get from, and I say silver screen, flat screen, or the computer screen. Are we getting good information? This is a metaphor for bad information from Hollywood. You want this dog? I can get you all you want of this dog, this Dalmatian dog. All we have to do is wait for a movie. What's the movie? 101 Dalmatians 7 or 8 or whatever it is now. You wait, you watch for the movie, you want this dog. You watch for the movie, you wait 7 months, and then you go to your pound or whatever you call it, wherever you take dogs. And you will find that's all they have. And they keep them there, nobody claims them, and they euthanize them. What's the pattern here? The pattern is, Mom and the kids go and watch the movie. In the movie, the dog comes when you call it. It licks your face. It's a great dog. Wonderful dog for the family. Mom goes home, persuades Dad to go buy the dog. They go buy it at the puppy mill, which is the dead last place you want to buy anything. They bring it home, and you might as well bring a hand grenade home. This dog has a brain the size of a golf ball, and it bites. It's stronger than a pit bull. It was never designed to be in a family. So after 7 months, it's bitten everybody in the house. It's probably taken out the mailman. Folks, this is Hollywood wisdom, and we go by this. We said, yeah, that's a good idea, great dog. Are these people really in the business of bringing you good knowledge? No. You know what when they get up in the morning, you know what they think about? How do I hold their interest? That's the whole thing, because they sell your eyeballs to their advertisers. Demography 201, more is more. Groups of people are predictable. Very important, folks. A couple concepts here from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. You need to stay with me. There are things that we affect as we age. When we're first born, it's diapers, isn't it not? Maternity wards, diapers, tricycles, grade school, and then it's bicycles, and then motorcycles, and automobiles, and then houses, boats, and then eventually coffins. But there are definite things along the lifeline that we influence as we age. Another chart, this is probably the most important one. Bureau of Labor Statistics says that the heavy lifting, I don't care if it's a Polynesian island with 10,000 people on it or it's the United States. There is a place within the chain of the population, the continuum of the population, 0 being over there and 100 being over here, where the heavy lifting is done. I'll tell you right now, the heavy lifting is done in this room. And according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the heavy lifting,
40 to 60 years old, we're going to narrow it down to 45 to 55. If you don't have a critical mass of people 45 to 55 to pay to actually, what they say is kill more than they eat or pay enough taxes to support the elderly and support the young, you lose your country. So you need a critical mass. We experienced a very bad economic crisis in 2008 with the houses. It just so happened that the baby boomers, the huge baby boomer generation, was superimposed over the 40 to 60. If we hit that crisis 10 years before or 10 years after, we'd be cooked. And you know, we took out the world with that. We'll talk about that some more. Demography 301, more groups of people are predictable. If we want to predict the future, do the math. That's all this is about. And it's not hard math. My wife and I had an advertising agency for 20 years. We picked up a major account, American Honda. We printed money with American Honda. We had 140 dealerships that we were responsible for, from Washington, D.C. to Pittsburgh to the tip of Maine. We printed money. They bought us an office building. 1986 comes along, right here. And a funny thing happened. The bikes came in from Japan. We prepped them, we put them in the dealers, we ran the ads, and they didn't sell. And we couldn't figure out why. I got a call from American Honda. They said, Ken, did you run the ads? You ever get that call? Or we built on it? I said, yeah, we ran the ads. He said, well, bikes aren't selling. He said, the only consolation is Kawasaki, Suzuki, and Yamaha are all in the same boat. They're not selling. Harley's selling like crazy, and BMW is fine, but the Japanese brands are cooked. We tried everything. By 1992, the bottom of the trough here, business had fallen 80%. The Japanese gave up and closed the dealerships. You remember them, most of you here. saying it's an indictment of Generation X. Generation X is born 1965 to 1984. How many Xers are here? 65 to 84. You're wrong. It says that the Generation X are lazy, couch potato slackers. They're not participating in the political process. Yeah, hang on. Not participating in the political process. They're not voting. They're not running for office. They're not giving up their time. They're not giving up their money. What's this world coming to with this new generation? And the comparison was to the baby boomers who were charging into the political process. This is when Dole was running against Clinton. And I'm reading this and I'm saying, I have 30 people, I have 40 people working for me, and 30 of those people are Generation X. And I don't have any lazy people. What are they talking about? So I called our research department and I said, find out everything you can about Generation X. People born 1965 to 1984. I want to know everything. Statistical abstracts, census data, Bureau of Labor Statistics data. It's all free, incidentally. Tell me everything. Came back a couple days later and he said, it's true. I said, so they're lazy. He said, no, there's fewer of them. I said, what do you mean? He said, yeah. He said, between 1945 and 1964, when the boomers were born, there were close to 80 million people born. And if you compare that to 65 to 84, you're missing 9 million people. Generation X has 9 million fewer people. And I said, I think we just solved the motorcycle question. I said, get all the information you can, and we're going to lock ourselves in a room because I think we just discovered something huge. Follow me. Generation X, people that are currently, right now, they're 27 to 46 years old. When they were born, they shut down maternity wards. Why? Did they? They just weren't born. You've heard of a contest on the radio where they give a prize to the first baby born? Well, in some Midwestern states, they didn't give it away until February. During that period. They shut down maternity wards. They shut down 30% of the public schools because they didn't have the critical mass, didn't need the teachers, didn't need the space, didn't need the desks, didn't need anything. They shut down the motorcycle industry because we found out that we sold motorcycles to men 16 to 24 years old, and the baby boomers had exited that very, very narrow demo, and then Generation X had filled up that very, very narrow demo, and it was over. Automobiles, can you imagine this? General Motors firing their marketing department one more time because they're not selling the same number of SUVs to this generation as they did to the boomers. And what's the problem? We don't have the message right yet, but they never bothered to count them. Housing crisis, what's the power of demography? 2008. 2008, the baby boomers discovered that the 6,000 square foot starter castle that they built, and the kids have just the time for the kids to leave, and you have mom and dad rattling around in this big thing that they have to heat, pay taxes on, and maintain. It's time to sell it, right? Go to someplace warm. They turn around, and the market that's going to buy it does not have the critical mass to do it. Because for every 10 houses for sale, there's 8 buyers. A 20% differential is all it took. Now, it wasn't the reason, but it was the catalyst that tipped the scales, and then all of a sudden, all the bad loans